Have you ever been in love? Would you like me to describe it to you?
Have you ever been in love?
Okay, okay, not the TikTok, Instagram trending audio. We don't do that here. Here we do science, and we're going to be talking about love in terms of science because this is Ish Matters. And welcome back to Ish Matters, my beautiful, beautiful listeners. I'm sorry I've been gone a little bit, but I am back, and we're back with the old setup. I'm back where I belong, which is my house. And yeah, anyways, that's not the point. Um, we are going to be talking about how you think you're a fully functioning adult with a nice prefrontal cortex and you're rational and you don't make hasty decisions, and then someone smiles at you the right way, and suddenly you're going absolutely bonkers. You're not doing the work as much as you're supposed to, and you're not sleeping, and you forget to do your laundry, and all you can do is think about that person. And before you say, like, oh my God, have you fallen in love? Is that why you're making this episode? No, I haven't.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about all of these things on Instagram about love and falling in love, and it just, again, it's like that mirror neuron episode where the mystery of it bugs me. I don't like when something is just surrendered to like magic or mysticism. There is biology behind it. All of our feelings are just basically chemical cocktails in our body. And I know that takes away like the beauty of it, and don't get me wrong, I'm a writer and I love poetry and I write poetry and I love the artistry of it. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we're biological beings ruled by hormones and, you know, genetic codes. So let's learn a little bit more about that side of things, right? Because in the world of rom-coms, it would be really helpful to know what's actually going on in our bodies and minds. So today we're going to be talking about the love, not the one in movies, not the butterflies and rainbows love, but the one that lights up in brain scans, the one you can test in hormone levels, the one you can actually measure, a neurological physical event that is happening in your body and brain. And I'm really excited for this. So let's get into it. Backtrack. This episode is mainly going to unpack the stages of romantic love. Obviously, there are many kinds of love, but the processes of falling in love and different things like familial relationships or friendships are a little bit different to romantic love. So we're going to be focusing primarily on romantic, and that's because the three stages are kind of unique to that romantic love, which are lust, attraction, and attachment. And we're going to go through the chemicals and the hormones that are involved in each of those stages. We're going to unpack how it's different in male and female brains. Yes, there are differences. I know it's crazy. We are different. Um, that might come off so politically incorrect. Incorrect? Not incorrect. Incorrect. People love to come at you nowadays when you're like, men and women are different. And that's like mind-boggling to them. They're like, what are you talking about? We have different needs? No. Feminism, third wave, fourth wave, whatever wave we're on of feminism, I'm not included in that. Listen, equality, right? But whatever's happening right now with feminism is not feminism at all. That's, I can talk about that for so long and get canceled by, see, the next thing I'm going to say I would get canceled for. We're going to be talking about the three stages, starting with lust. Okay, so lust is the opening phase that doesn't even pretend to have depth. It's like if you've ever seen a movie trailer with like a bunch of action scenes, but none of the plot, and then you watch the movie and it was like, what? I didn't get any of this from the trailer. And the action scenes were like 0.01% of the whole movie. That's what lust is. Lust is only interested in one thing, and that is passing on your genes. It does not care if the person in front of you has the emotional capacity of a teaspoon. Bandwidth? Capacity. A teaspoon. I thought that was clever when it came out of my mouth. So this is the first stage, and it's mainly ruled by two hormones, estrogen and testosterone. So the command center here is really the hypothalamus, the region of the brain that is also responsible for hunger, thirst, sexual arousal. We call it kind of the monkey brain, the primitive brain, right? And this area of the brain sends signals to your gonads, the ovaries in women and the testes in men, to release sex charged hormones, which are testosterone and estrogen. Let's start with testosterone. So, women have testosterone too. It's just that men have 7 to 8 times higher levels of testosterone. So what it does here is it boosts libido, competitiveness, attentiveness, etc., motivation, and it actually spikes in both the man and the woman. And I just realized this is not inclusive of same-sex relationships, but let's go with like the biology of heterosexual relationships in this episode. Anyways, so testosterone is really helpful because when it spikes, it makes you more competitive for the mate's attention. And this is really the biological reason behind it. Also, again, the sex drive, the attentiveness, the motivation, the energy, the willingness to take risk actually is very highly linked to testosterone. And then we have estrogen. So estrogen peaks just before ovulation for women, and this actually changes their scent, the pitch of their voice, and actually can enhance facial symmetry. So when you're ovulating and you're like, man, I look good, I feel good, I sound good, all of these things, it's actually happening. And this is picked up by brains, these cues, even if they're so subtle, they are picked up by males and they can consciously or subconsciously pick up on them. And that makes them understand that, like, okay, this is the fertile window. It's time to go for it. And that's not to say you can only attract a mate or experience lust during your ovulation or right before. But I mean, does it ever happen that as a woman, does it ever happen that you're like putting yourself out there and lowering your standards and being very willing to open yourself up to lust when you're like in your luteal phase? For women, if you know, you know. You're definitely not. Maybe you are. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing. I don't know. But regardless, as we all know, lust does not lead to long term bonding. It is not the precursor to a healthy and happy lifelong partnership. So that's where the next stage comes in, and that is attraction. So attraction is the I can't stop thinking about them phase, right? It's the I'm skipping my lunch break because I'm just not hungry and I want to text them. It's I can't go to sleep because I'm texting them or calling them all night. I'm thinking about them too much. I have the energy to run a marathon right now, and you're happier and you're singing and dancing in the shower, dancing while you get ready for work, and you're just over the moon, ecstatic. And it's no surprise that the hormone that runs the show here is dopamine. But while dopamine is the main player here, there's actually more of a chemical cocktail at play. So, yes, dopamine does surge, and that's the same kind of reward that you get when you're doing cocaine or gambling or scrolling through TikTok. And basically, this makes you want more. You're in like seeking behavior, right? You just keep wanting more, and it never feels like enough. And then also, what happens is your norepinephrine increases, and this increases attentiveness and energy. So, this is why you seem to remember every single detail about your first date, what they were wearing, the color of their eyes. You're like so attentive and focused. You're like, where was this focus when I was in my lecture in biostatistics? I hated biostatistics, guys. That was like the worst class I ever had to take, and I had to take it for like 4 years, and I hated it. It was terrible. If you like biostatistics, how? Not the point. The last thing that happens is serotonin drops. I know, this is pretty interesting because you would think serotonin is like a happy hormone. Wouldn't it increase? No. Serotonin drops to match the profile almost of people with obsessive compulsive disorder, which actually makes you obsessively think about them. And you're just rethinking that text and reading it over and over and over again. You're replaying that voice note over and over and over again. And it produces this like obsessive behavior. Together, you feel like you're going crazy, right? You're like constantly seeking, you're constantly obsessing over it. You have the energy of 6,000 moons, and you are also experiencing a little bit of that lust. So that's making you take more risks, and it's making you do things that are a little bit irrational. And so if you usually feel crazy when you're like really into someone, you should feel completely validated. It's not your fault, it's the hormones' fault. When you look at brain scans of people newly in love, they light up kind of similarly to people who just did cocaine, which is really interesting because we'll get into like the withdrawal later and how losing someone you love, whether it be through a breakup or loss or whatever, that distance creates a withdrawal effect, a true physical neurological withdrawal similar to withdrawing from actual drugs or narcotics. Okay, but kind of similarly to lust, the attraction phase is exhilarating, but it's unstable. So if you want to develop that long-term relationship, your brain needs to transition into the next stage, which is attachment. The attachment stage is so beautiful because this is where we develop the long term, lifelong relationships, where we look at these old couples who are so in love and attached to one another, and we're like, wow, I would cut off my left pinky for that. It's a bit aggressive. Don't cut off your left pinky for anybody. I can't think of a situation where that would be valid or necessary. But anyways, not the point here. The point here is that attachment is such a beautiful thing, and while it is magical and poets write about it and all of these things, it is kind of dominated by only two hormones, two very cool hormones, but it's a hormonal cocktail again. And those two hormones are oxytocin and vasopressin. Oxytocin is often dubbed the cuddle hormone or the love hormone, and vasopressin is often associated with men during sexual intercourse. But there's actually a lot more to these two hormones than what meets the eye. So, oxytocin is released when you are physically touching the person, hugging them, you have prolonged eye contact, and even breastfeeding actually releases oxytocin, which is that bonding hormone between mother and infant. And that's why when you have a baby, you put it on your skin for many other reasons. It's also warmth and stuff like that, but that's like a whole other topic. But and then you breastfeed the child, the baby, the infant. So many words just came out of my mouth. And that is the initial bonding, right? Because oxytocin is just like blasting in the mother's brain and body. But back to romantic relationships, oxytocin really is that like bonding hormone, the love, the trust, the calmness, when you feel like everything is settling down and this warm feeling inside of you, that's oxytocin. Vasopressin kind of does very similar things, but it can be released in different contexts as well. Like vasopressin, for example, it can be released when you guys face a challenge together, or for men, during sexual intercourse, during stressful situations where they have to take lead and stuff like that. So vasopressin is released and it can increase the feelings of bonding. So you feel like you're actually connecting with a person. It can also act as a precursor to oxytocin, which is really important. And vasopressin is more important in males than females. We both excrete it and we both need it, but it is more associated with males. The science of that is a little bit irrelevant to this episode. But those two hormones are what are driving and fueling this stage of attachment. And an even more beautiful fact about these two hormones being released is that when they are released, you start to co regulate with one another. You start to synchronize with one another. That's why when you look at long term relationships, you find that the couple often has like synchronized heart rates, sleep cycles, stress responses. So your bodies literally become one on the same frequency, if you will. I hate to use that term because it's like, ooh, frequencies, but yeah, it's a really good way to describe what's happening here is that you bond on both a physical and like almost metaphysical level in the long run, not immediately. Okay, so I wanted to, this is like not in the episode at all, but I know a lot of you are thinking, what about love at first sight? Do you just like skip all of those stages? No, not really. But there is an interesting thing that happens, and this is my opinion. We're going to diverge from the science right now and go to like Ranya's opinion about things because if I'm wrong, I don't want to be held accountable for giving you wrong science. But I think, in my opinion, that something beautiful is happening when you have this like love at first sight thing. Obviously, it is predominantly lust. I hate to break it to you. It is lust. But it's interesting because you like see a person, and if you have one conversation with them and you feel like within 10 minutes, you feel like, oh my God, this is the love of my life. A lot of hormones at play. Obviously, you're being irrational, and your prefrontal cortex actually literally like partially shuts down in the attraction phase. So that's something I didn't mention earlier, but it really does shut down a little bit. Like it decreases in activity. So that's interesting. We're not thinking very rationally, but when you have like the sexual attraction, the lust, and you have the emotional attraction where you feel like, oh my God, this person really understands me. And I feel like there's like a capacity to understand and an intellectual layer to it where you're like, we care about the same things. And you add all of these layers, and it can feel like the perfect storm of love at first sight. Do I believe in love at first sight? Like you look at a person from across the room and you're in love? No, because biologically that's kind of impossible. Poetically, maybe not. But do we go by poetry or do we go by biology? I don't know. That's for you to decide however you want to live your life and whatever philosophies you would like to believe in. Right? Right. But that also, like, okay, so if you did want to believe in love at first sight, that also refutes the idea of like arranged marriages, for example, working out so well. Because actually, I was going to get into this later, but since we're on the topic, arranged marriages actually have pretty high success rates, like higher than you would think. And when you test the compatibility, love levels, whatever, between couples who met naturally and had the three stages of love and people who were kind of like put into a marriage, maybe didn't feel attraction at first, maybe didn't feel lust at first, but then got there over the course of like a decade or 2 decades or whatever, you actually find very similar levels of love compatibility, comfort, trust, etc. So that is just to say that, like, yes, these stages are beautiful and cool and magical and can feel like a whirlwind and roller coaster, but also there are other ways to achieve love. It's not always this like storm and fireworks and rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it's like quiet and subtle, you know? A lot of people want that like burn, you know, the fireworks. But it's not the only way people fall in love. Okay, back to the episode. And now we're going to be jumping into how love is different for men and women. Okay, so love lights up in the brains differently for men and women, right? And it's not to say that one is better than the other, it's just to say that they're different. Imagine watching a movie and one person is focused on the cinematography and the lighting and all of those things, and the other person is just focused on the characters, the lines, the writing, the subtle movement or quiver of their lip or eyebrow. They're watching the same movie, but they're focusing on very different things. So it's the same, but the emphasis here is different. So when you look at MRI scans, you find that in male brains, there is like a more activation in visual processing centers, kind of supporting the evolutionary theory that like they are meant to pick up more on visual cues of fertility and etc. And it's kind of why Helen Fisher describes it as like this is why men have that almost like cinematic wow moment when they see a woman, right? That's like it's more visual for them. And then for women, it's less visual and they have more activation in the areas of the brain responsible for memory, social judgment, etc. So they kind of do a more holistic like they try to build a case for you. Who are you? What do people say about you? What is the general consensus surrounding you? And then, you know, because the stakes are higher for women evolutionarily and biologically. Like if you trust the wrong mate and produce offspring with the wrong mate, you are stuck first of all 9 months carrying that child and then for the rest of your life taking care of it potentially. And so the risks are much higher for women biologically, socially, everything. So women have to be more holistic and careful, whereas men get to be a little more reckless and visual with it. A really nice example of this is like if you had a group chat, everybody has a group chat with their friends for the most part, and it's like you go on a date and the man goes on a date with this woman and sends to his group chat and goes like, "Oh my God, I love this person. This is crazy. This is so great. This woman is amazing. She's the woman of my dreams." If the group chat responds very negatively to that woman, it is more unlikely that the male's opinion of the woman is affected. Whereas women are very much affected by social judgment. And so they have to consider that a lot more than men, which is interesting because you can literally see the different kinds of activation in the brain, which support these social interactions and theories that we have, like working on a daily basis. Um, so yeah, that's primarily the difference. Obviously, there are more differences, and like the hormonal things we talked about, the hormonal cocktails we talked about are going to vary in terms of like what is higher for men and women. Um, and that's natural, of course. Like I don't think I have to explain to you that testosterone is going to always be higher in men, and unless there's like a hormonal disorder going on, but we're not covering that. We're just covering like baseline hormonal levels. Vasopressin is going to be more present in men. Oxytocin is going to be higher in women. And actually, when couples do fall in love, testosterone decreases in men, increasing their like it's almost like their testosterone decreases, which then decreases their mate seeking behavior, and they become more loyal and bonded to a person, to a woman, and they are more emotionally vulnerable and more able to like work through issues without, the testosterone rage. And then for women, oxytocin increases, which increases that like bonding feeling. So obviously, all of these hormones are just going to be varied in men and women, and those are the main differences. But I've always wanted to know what love feels like for a man. I don't know. Like, we can talk about the science and the hormones all we want, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know what that feels like within men. So if you're a man and you don't mind sharing, go to the comments. What does love feel like for you? Genuinely, like true love. Because I've always wanted to know, like, are men even capable of the same kind of love as women? Because you don't know. It's kind of like that color theory of like, we're both saying that thing is purple, but do we know that the purple in your mind is the purple in my mind? At some point, we both looked at it and the teacher said that's purple, and we just registered that color as purple. But is it really the same? I'm assuming not because we have different hormones, but it's so interesting. Like, what does it feel like for the other sex? Drop a comment, please. By the way, I just want to note that these things that we talked about, they're not rigid, right? So they're not like an end all be all for everybody. A man in a long term relationship, his brain might start doing the emotional contextual associations just like a woman's brain. And a woman in casual dating settings for so long might start to do that like rapid fire visual appraisal thing that men often do. So it's not rigid, obviously. And it's a whole other conversation when you talk about same sex attraction and falling in love there. But those are different and they're not included in this episode. So that's not to say that what I'm saying is like this is it and this is the only way it happens, but it is to say this is generally what is accepted evolutionarily. Like evolutionary biologists accept that this is what's happening. And I just want to put that out there. Okay, and now for the final part, withdrawal, the breakup. What happens when you lose the loved one? When love ends, your brain doesn't just like, boom, get over it, as you may know. But it's actually, again, a really intense chemical cocktail. And just as intense as that lust attraction roller coaster might have felt, the breakup also feels the same or even worse because it could be so much more prolonged. The first thing that happens is that oxytocin and dopamine crash. I mean, you are miserable, lethargic, hopeless. You don't have energy or motivation to do anything anymore. The second thing that happens is your stress hormones increase drastically. Cortisol increases drastically. So you're stressed out, whether you feel it as stress or not. Cortisol is overflowing. You're pouring out your cortisol. And really, what this feels like here is withdrawal, the same kind of feeling you get from like a drug withdrawal, from narcotics, for example. And it's because the reward pathways in your brain that are so used to this person. I mean, think about it. Your brain just spent so many like biology coins, like, if you will, like it's like the biology money, the energy, the hormones, the overflowing. And then you might have done physical things too. Like you might have given this person things and your reward pathways are just like, oh my God, where's this person? You go through like this protest and despair process of you want them back and you're constantly checking their social media and you're experiencing these obsessive behaviors all over again and you deny it and you want to go back to it. And it's like, it really is like a drug addiction because you might know that this person is bad for you, that this situation will never work for you or for your life, but you still feel the need to go back. And this is why we have like, obviously, time heals all, and time is what you need here, but also no contact. And that's what I want to talk about. I have beef with that term, no contact, because it is so overused and it makes me cringe a little bit. I don't even use the word cringe like that, but I'm going to use it here because I literally cringe if someone says, like, oh, I broke no contact. Can we be adults and use adult terms, please? Sorry. I know that came off like so judgmental, but to an extent, yes, like no contact does work. You need to separate yourself from that person. Closure does help, but closure is not always available sometimes. And so you have to give yourself time and space, just like you would with any like narcotic withdrawal. Is you're going to want it back, and then it's going to subside, and that impulse to go see them or talk to them or be with them again, it will decrease over time. So that impulse that feels so strong, like you need to text them, you need to call them, you need to drive to their house in the pouring rain, it will get better over time. You just need to give it time. And it hurts and it sucks and it's very real. And it's because of our hormones. And now, finally, I want to come to the part where poetry and biology shake hands. Because we need a story. If love were only hormones, it wouldn't inspire sonnets and poems and wars and all of the crazy things we do for love. It would just be mating season. There wouldn't be a Romeo and Juliet. There would be a Romeo and Juliet texted each other, got into a situationship for 3 days, and then ghosted each other. There wouldn't be all of this beauty surrounding love where it genuinely makes your life brighter. You see colors in a brighter way and food tastes better and the morning cup of coffee is so exciting and it makes you excited to do things that you weren't excited to do before. Love is blinding, deafening and dumbing, if that's a word. It really is such a powerful thing. And I, a person of science who believes in science and really does trust science to help us understand the world around us, um, refuse to believe that it's only hormones, refuse to believe that the hormonal cocktails within attraction and attachment are what's making someone choose to spend the rest of their life with someone else and not imagine a life beyond that person. It might be. It might just be really powerful hormones, but I don't believe in that because I like the idea of the story, and I think we all do. Like, yes, it's partially chemistry and choice, but it's art, right? Like, love is art. Yes. But again, love is not just something we passively fall in and out of. It's a choice we have to make every single day. It's a choice even when it's hard. And that's a whole other episode where we're probably going to talk about bell hooks and Brene Brown and all of the really cool authors who talk about love. Um, I think I once, not I think, I know I once posted an episode about love and how we got it all wrong nowadays. Um, and then, and then I deleted it because it's so controversial to speak of love in a healthy way nowadays, which is so sad because of the rise of dating apps and social media. Like, if you want love and loyalty and commitment, it's now viewed as like over controlling or possessiveness or jealousy or selfishness, and everybody has an attachment issue and everybody's avoidant and everybody's anxious and everybody's a red flag and everybody has gaslighting manipulative traits. It's crazy. It's a shit show. I think even if you're a teenager who watches this, you can spell. So, but I couldn't say it. That's all I have for you today, actually. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it taught you a thing or two. Can be your next party trick. You can be like, hey, next time you're like falling in love and someone looks at you and you're like, oh my God, your pupils are dilated. Haha, you're attracted to me. You know what hormones are being released right now? And then you just like ruin the magical moment. It's fun, trust me. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I will see you next week here on this channel. Bye. Bye. How do I say bye? Should I say bye? Peace. Luna, have you ever been in love? No. Actually, Luna's going through heat. This is like TMI, but Luna's going through heat right now, and she's my baby. I got her when she was this big. She's literally my child. And I just can't imagine her interacting with a male cat. Okay? I just can't do it. She's my child. I know. I know it's natural. I know. I know. But no, I refuse. It's like allowing my child to go see a boy when she's still a child. Absolutely not. Look at that. Absolutely not. Yeah, say hi to the camera. My gosh, you're getting fat, Luna. I'm just kidding. You're not. I love you. Body positivity. I body shame my cats too much. I think so. Her fur's everywhere. Oh my god, you can literally see fur flying. Flying, flying fur. Flying, flying fur.